So this was our daily driver, so to speak, this little Fordham one for a number of years. We really liked it, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because we've already talked about it in a previous video, link somewhere above. And I think it was a great little polisher to have, but unfortunately fortunately, we've just outgrown it. And it is now time to move on to much bigger things. So we've been waiting for this to come for a very long time. We ordered this thing like 3+ months ago at least, and due to various COVID typically related reasons, it's taken a very long time to get here. And unfortunately, when we got it, our little Mazda 3 car, it wouldn't fit in the box. So that's why we had to unbox it at the supplier and fit it in our car. Now it did come in 2 boxes. This one over here, this is the actual motor itself that fits inside the unit. But what you're actually looking at here is just really the dust collector part. Okay, so let's get into this big beast of a thing here. We have everything that makes this work. Look at the size of this fan. This is huge. This unit is designed for 600 CFM, which is a lot considering the size. For reference, if you haven't seen one of our other videos where we talk about a ductless fume hood, which is what we use for our casting, that one is running at 300 CFM and it's HEPA rated. So this is 600 and it's actually not HEPA rated. These filters here, this is a fiberglass filter. It's fairly large, obviously. This is just designed to collect all the dust. With 600 CFM, I wonder if I could get a HEPA rated one and just slip it in. I'll have to make sure, obviously, that the dimensions and the size are good, but it should work just fine. In theory, anyway. They do recommend that you change this filter once a month. Now that, of course, depends entirely on your usage, how much compound you're going to put on the buff, how much you're using it. Like if this is an everyday, let's say at least 3 or 4 hour machine that you're working at, then definitely probably stick to that as your baseline, about a month. You might want to even pull this out, vacuum it out every once in a while just to make sure that it's still running well. The more this filter gets clogged, the more this is going to have to work and the less efficient it's going to get over time. So just, change things up, make sure they're clean. If you have just a basic shop vac to get out some of the fluffies that come off the buff, should be fine. So that's the guts. Let's put this back together and we'll get the motor unboxed and installed on the front side. I wanted to open this up just so I could actually make sure there's no extra packaging, make sure there's no film over the filters. Always good practice just to check. So let's get into this box now. So Arbe, I'm not sure if Arbe makes their own motors, but they definitely use this motor like across their entire lineup. Basically, the only difference between this motor, this whole setup and say a lesser one is typically the enclosure. The motor stays the same. So that's nice for their, for scaling, it just keeps the product consistent, which is nice. All right, so what do we got in here? Nicely packed. I believe these are the Arbors, which we'll install in a sec. This is a 1/2 horsepower motor and it runs at 3,450 RPM, which is very standard. There's really nothing too outstanding about this. The thing I find the most weird is that it's just completely round. So we're gonna have to use the bracket that's in there, which was always the plan anyway. But the fact that we have no option is interesting, to say the least. We got a short little 110 volt power cord, which plugs into the back for a very nice clean look. I think, just for the sake of ease, because once we get it in there, I'm not sure how much room we'll have on either side. I'm just going to install these Arbors, and then these are the locking mechanisms that actually clamp down, keep the machine attached. They're a very simple mechanism. It looks like these hook into a little thing in there. We'll show you that in a second. And then you just tighten it down with that. So very simple. Simple is often best, in my experience. Now the arbors do matter. You have to make sure that you follow this. There's the right and the left one. And the reason being is that they are threaded differently. So if I put the right one on the left, if I try to put something on this one, on the wrong side, it's going to unthread continuously. If this is on the right side, which is as it should be, then the thread, if I put on a buffing wheel, is going to continually make that buff tighter and hold it in place. Shannon had a really good point. We're gonna move the enclosure to where we want it first before we install the motor. Overall, this whole unit weighs well over 100 pounds. So, we're just gonna make it easier on ourselves. These latch into these little teeth, and they go around. And there's another one on the back. So I have to loosen this off, and then we'll tighten it up, and that's what's gonna hold the motor down. Now it seems that there's like a rubber seal around the motor, so that I think is going to be part of the vibration dampening, which is really nice because these things, especially when the buff gets off kilter, when it's brand new especially, they tend to vibrate a lot and it can be really annoying. Something else to note, before you put on the motor, it's best to maybe give it a quick check, how does it feel? Because the motor does have a little bit of a rail underneath. You can push the motor all the way back or all the way forward, depending on what you need. In this case, I think they set it up right, for my case anyway, and it feels good. So this should be good to go. Let's just go get some light bulbs and plug it in. We'll see how it works. So we have a couple of the LED lights. I'm gonna go with LEDs. I'm not sure if this is ideal. Maybe a bar would be better, but rather than a bulb. But the LEDs won't produce as much heat, which would be really nice, especially when I'm working in here fully enclosed. So that's pretty much it. Let's fire this thing up. I suspect it's going to sound like a jet engine, so this is going to be interesting. There's like an exhaust at the back here. You need at least 6 inches of a gap, it says, from the wall, which is fine. There's going to be a lot of dust back here, so I suspect it's going to be like a poof as it turns on for the first time. Let's see. You never know. That is a lot quieter than I thought. Okay, that's annoying. You saw that obvious bit there, that 600 CFM really is working with that really annoying whistle. I'll have to deal with that. It might mean that I have to take off one of the, or at least cut it a little bit. I don't know, we'll see. I feel like these little flappy doodles could probably extend the slit up a little bit, not only for range of motion, which would be nice, but if it stops that wild howling, that would be great too. Anyway, this looks really good. I'm gonna just play around with it and polish something up, and it should work pretty much the same as the other one. It's just bigger and much more clean. I'm really looking forward to that, because this is technically our dirty room, as it were, and this is where we do the casting, the sanding, polishing, washing, just in general. This is where all the dust and stuff happens. And if I can mitigate that as best I possibly can, it'll be better for my health and everyone else who works with me. So that would be great. So that's all for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.